Good evening, I'm Madison Green. Dan and Laura have the night off. Thanks for joining us. Earlier today, the First Lady of the United States touched down at Monaco Air. Dr. Jill Biden making her second stop on a whirlwind tour across the U.S., launching the Seniors for Biden-Harris, a campaign that aims to energize and engage senior voters ahead of November's election. The First Lady then made her way over to Lincoln Park Community Center, giving a speech to Duluth's older residents. Northern News Now's Jeffrey McClure attended the event filled with seniors in support of the Biden-Harris administration.
Dr. Jill Biden opened up her speech at the Lincoln Park Community Center in Duluth with a story about becoming a grandmother. According to the First Lady, when the Bidens' first granddaughter was born, she was unable to see herself as a nana, but has now accepted the role.
Yet here we are, and this Nana is so proud to stand here with all of you today to launch Seniors for Biden and to get to work to re-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
As she steps into the role of a grandmother, she and her husband are on the trail ahead of the November elections, hoping to energize seniors to giving them their vote. Some active members in local politics, such as Joan Peterson, have heard rumblings of a possible dip in the senior vote for the Biden administration this November.
I have heard that some seniors have feel a little differently about President Biden now. I'm not sure why, because he's done a lot of work on behalf of seniors, as we heard Dr. Biden talk about.
As many worry about voting for her husband due to his age, Dr. Biden says the candidates should be chosen based on their character.
He knows how to bring people together and get bills passed because he's been doing it for decades. He knows how to work with people who disagree with him because he's seen and shaped how change happens.
Her points of emphasis during her speech included Social Security, the price of medications, and Medicare, which is important to many local seniors.
Well, it was very exciting but affirming as well, because Duluth is a vibrant community. As you can see, there are lots of seniors in Duluth who have been working on campaigns and working on issues. And as a group, I think we're ready to get to work.
In Duluth, with Northern News Now, I'm Jeffrey McClure.
Dr. Biden's speech was not met with support from everyone in attendance. During the event, protesters with the Free Palestine movement interrupted the speech. About halfway through Dr. Biden's speech, the first protester stood up and began screaming about the U.S.'s aid in the Israeli war. 2 minutes later, a second protester was escorted out of the building, this time waving a Palestinian flag on their way out. While both protesters were being let out, the community center filled with chants of 4 more years from Biden supporters. During the event, protesters were also seen outside the building, and when the speech was over, they marched downtown.